Charles, what's happening, sir?
Oh man, it's Friday. What's going on?
It is Friday, indeed it is, and we have another week that we get to see, man. So that's always a good thing.
Oh yeah.
So,
Never promised. So let's take advantage of it while we can.
indeed, you and I was talking earlier about, as we often talk about the different age groups and the generations and the philosophies and what they like to talk about. And let me first give a shout out to our intern who is out today and traveling to a commencement, and but she's here in spirit. So definitely want to give a shout out to her. But as we talk about this young generation, Charles, what do they like to talk about more than anything else?
I wouldn't say more than anything else, but they spend a good amount of time talking about race, and they talk about it. Um, they talk about it with some depth. Um, from a social justice, from an economic justice, from a disparities viewpoint. They seem to have their finger on the pulse of what's happening.
Well, are you? I mean, don't you think that with all this going on, particularly in their lifespan, that they have a reason to talk about race? Because it's been on the headlines more than I can remember it being when we came through.
It's interesting that you say that because if you think about it, um, we're of an age where people try to tell us that it was not about race. It was about every other factor but race.
Right.
And so I think part of our age group bought into that. Um, but with the proliferation of information available on social media, constant contact with people from all over the world, video, which we've talked about in other contexts, it's hard to miss that race is a big factor in a lot of things in America.
Well, I mean, we also got to think about. I mean, so it wasn't that it wasn't a big factor,
Oh
but
no,
our
I'm not
day
saying that.
is
I'm saying that there was an attempt
okay.
to kind of wash that out.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's in I love the fact that this age group and this generation is very in tune. And like you said, they don't just talk about it, but they talk about it in depth and really take a deep dive into the real issues. And more importantly than that, they are very active and very determined to make impact on progress and solving them. So I think they have a chance. This is the first actual global generation that's the millennials now that we know today. They're the first global ones. And what I mean by that is this is a generation that's never been restricted by it. Now, I'm going to date myself here. So I see Nilly's in the house, but I'm going to date myself here. But they're not restricted by area codes and long distance phone numbers versus local. So
No,
that let me just put it there. So I know I'm dating myself and I'm going back.
yeah, no,
But it's true. They don't know what long distance is. A lot of them don't even know what the MCIs and sprints and used to be. All they know of the cell phone company, and they don't even know the first iteration of cell phones where you paid by the minute, which we never talked on them because we couldn't afford to pay by the minute. So
yeah,
they
you had
are
talking
unlimited
after
generation.
6 p.m. You had to talk after 6 p.m.
That's right. Oh no. No. That was on weekends. No. You were talking after midnight.
Oh yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
No. You just went off peak after 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So you still were paying by the minute. And so when you think about that, also, can you imagine a world? Think about when we were coming up where, let's just take it from a simple perspective. Your friends, Man, if we had friends that lived out of state, just the town over, we didn't see them, right? They got video and FaceTime and all this. They can see people no matter where they are anytime. So
True.
global generation, meaning they had a lot of boundaries removed. So they also have information and access that we did not readily have. So I love it. I love what they're doing with it. But that brings us to the point of the show today. I in turn picked the topic, and it just reinforces what we were just saying, because our topic today is, will race ever not be a factor?
Hmm.
It's a deep question.
It is. It's a deep question. And I keep thinking about the election of Barack Obama when they started telling us we are in a post-racial America because of one man.
Well, if this is what a post-racial America looks like, I don't want any part of it.
Yeah. Well, you know, it wasn't true then. It's certainly not true now. We've made some strides, but there is a very long way to go.
Well, here's the thing. It brings up as we look at some of the research. Now, Idaho made an interesting move here recently, and I'll cover it. And just for integrity here, let me look at where I'm pulling this file from. But
Did you say Neely was in the house while you looking that up?
yeah, Nilly was in the house. Yeah.
Shout out to Daryl Neely. I watched your one-on-one with Coach Sanders, and you did a wonderful job expanding on his vision and what's necessary for us to move to the next level. Uh, and I see that I have some required viewing because it looks like Neely took our basketball coach to get a pedicure and did an interview while he was doing it.
And look, that was sweet. That was sweet right there. So I got to give him props for that.
Yeah, shout out to
In
Neely
fact,
for the
I think
creativity.
I just saw the teaser. I got to go watch the whole segment today because I
Yeah,
don't miss him. But he had one segment. He said toe to toe. So I mean, for you guys that don't know, what we're talking about, check out the pregame show on YouTube. Subscribe. Show our brother Nilly some love. Great content. Always great content and deep content. The questions that we all have that we want to know, he asked the questions. So definitely check him out. And I think, speaking of that, Idaho just did something that I never thought I would see. I didn't think had to be done, but here's where we are. They moved to ban critical race theory instruction from all public schools and universities. And what that basically means is they're going to prohibit any school or university from teaching that sex, race, ethnicity, color, national origin, gender is inherently superior or inferior to one another. Charles, are we at a point that we have to do that now?
I'm gonna go with the quickest route to answer your question. If you have to prohibit that, there's a problem.
I mean, I could use Brother Neely on this one though, because I mean, the fact that we have to create a law to prohibit our public schools and universities from teaching that one race, one ethnicity, one sex, one color is inherently superior or inferior. Wow. Wow.
So let's break that down just a notch. And here's what I will say. For those of you who are not familiar with the term critical race theory, the scholars who teach from that discipline acknowledge that race is a primary factor in just about every policy decision that's made in the United States. And it's saying that policies are slanted towards white people in an effort to keep black people down. Look at housing. If you go to look at the loan rates There's a good example. There's plenty of data that shows that black people are not approved at the same rate as white people. Now, if you want to remove those people who are teaching critical race theory, then that means you are trying to whitewash the issue.
Well, are you? I mean, let's just
I mean,
call it what
I'm
it is.
just keeping it real. I mean, the fact that you feel like you need to prohibit that,
Right.
but you know what? I will tell you, and you know, I always circle around the politics. This is a part of a larger play. And I told you, it starts with voter suppression. It starts with not wanting to approve the policing act because there's some segments of that policy that would remove qualified immunity, meaning that police officers could be sued. Then there's voter nullification, meaning that they outright want to have the ability to pick winners and losers, regardless of how you vote. This is just another prong of that. It is a way to say, in our state, you are going to toe the line. There will be no critical free thought. Now, when the state starts governing what's taught, that's a bit of their kind of that's the old authoritarian view. We're going to tell you what to think and how to think it. That's never good for a republic, for a democracy, where there's supposed to be ideas brought to the table and debated.
Well, you know what? I'm just cracking up laughing because when you talk about Nearly always has a way to say things, and he always cracks me up. So I'll put this up and let you get your own reaction. But that's why I'm over here laughing because he's cracking me up with the way he phrased it. But
I mean, hey,
look,
it's like this. It's like this, and I tell you this all the time. Elections have consequences. This is a ripple effect in the pool of feeling that you are losing your place in the world because you may not be the dominant race. Your policies may not be the dominant policies, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. There should be diversity of thought.
there should be. There absolutely should be. I agree with that. I think through diversity of thought, we get to the best solutions and the best ideas. I've always said that. I think, what do we say? We go into the war room all the time. And when we go into the war room, if you didn't know the two of us, you really get worried. We never worried because we're just trying to get to what is the best possible solution. And we know by the time we hash it out, whoever comes out on top, that's the best solution.
No doubt about it. I mean, and then think about this. If we both agree that diversity of thought is good, what does it say when you are prohibiting a particular line of thought?
Well, I think that's the problem. And if we go back to what I always say, and we just go back to the basics of humanity, um, this thing now, I mean, we talk about race a lot, but as we saw with the NCAA tournament, just the discrepancies of women to men, just in athletics on the biggest stage of college athletics. So we have this thing is morphing into so many areas, and that's why this law that they moved to make says not only race but sex as well. Ethnicity, religion, color,
here's
or
what I would
national
say
origin.
about that. Here's what I would say about that. That is exactly the way they want you to read that.
Yeah.
They want you to add the other stuff. It's
Well,
about race.
and I know why they want me to add the other stuff, but when we go back to the basis of it, look what's listed first.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think scientifically and theoretically, why do we, if I'm going to list something that I want you to kind of really forget, I'm going to list it first if I'm listing a long line of things. Because psychologically, by the time you get to the last thing I mentioned, unless you just inherently dispositioned to hear that one thing, or you're already pretty upset about that one thing, you it's going to dilute the message by the time it gets to the end. That's my hope. That's my intention.
Yeah.
So Charles, all right. Okay. So the fact is, we are at a point where we have to move to do these type of things to even say, hey, look, guys, it is not okay for you to teach that one group of people, one race of people, one is inherently superior or inferior. That is not okay. And we're talking about public education. We're not talking about private education. We're talking about public education, taxpayer dollars. And last time I checked, I'm pretty sure they're taking taxes from black, white, as well. So we're talking public institutions, and we've got to create a law for public institutions that's using public funds that consist of all diversity. And we've got to remind them that that's wrong. It's baffling that's where we are in 2021, but that's where we are. So, good scholar, how do we navigate? Now, let me throw something else at you. South Carolina. Let's just move on because that we'll be on there for a while. South Carolina may become the fourth state to allow executions by a firing squad. What do you think about that one?
I mean, it's not a new concept. It's not a new concept. Here's what I would say. Look at the politics of the region and look at how they approach criminal justice policy. They are encouraging the death penalty. Now, look at it through the lens of Virginia, which last time I checked is still in the South, according to the old way.
The Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah, according to the Mason-Dixon line, it's still in the South. But you look at what they did. So instead of us debating whether or not it should be by lethal injection or by firing squad, we should probably look at the Virginia model and see that we shouldn't have the death penalty at all.
From a legal perspective, what is your let me just play the other side of the fence here, just for argument's sake. What is your viewpoint on the death penalty and why we shouldn't have it?
I mean, yes, there.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on, Charles. That was too easy of a question. Let me change it up. Tell me why we should have it. Is there any scenario in which we should have the death penalty?
No.
Okay. Tell me why.
I mean, because you can achieve deterrence through other means. It's just that simple. And this goes back to critical race theory. These penalties were put in place a long, long time ago to punish black people, to get us all locked up in prison farms, and then to thin the herd. There's no need for that when you could be using prison time to retool and reform instead of simply punitive measures.
We're talking critical race theory, family. Critical race theory is what we're talking about today. So jump on in and join the conversation. It started with, just a recap for some of you that are just getting in. I see Bird and some others just getting in. We started with the move that Idaho is making to ban and prohibit the critical race theory instruction that basically teaches that a particular sex, race, religion, color, ethnicity is superior or inferior. All right, so that's kind of the genesis of the discussion today. Critical race theory. You might want to Google that. You might want to look that up so you can get up to speed with us. But it is everywhere. And so as we look at it, Charles just broke down his views on the death penalty and how that ties to critical race theory and why we shouldn't have it and his viewpoint on it. And I challenged him and asked him, can you give me one reason in which we should have the death penalty? And he responded a resounding no. I think my personal view on why we should have the death penalty is because it's permanent, right? And we don't always get it right.
We have a history of not getting it right.
And so here's the thing. If you don't get it right, there's no recourse to that if you're doing the death penalty. And also, to like you said, there can be no um, development, no rehabilitation if you're using death penalty. It's permanent. It's a permanent decision. And what I say to that is to say, Charles, I would like to say we have grown, and with our age and growth, we've gained wisdom. I would like to think that our capacity and the knowledge in which we think today is different than what we thought when we were 18. I would like to think that. Now, if I'm wrong, don't tell me because I don't want to know. But I would like to keep thinking that it has enhanced, at an enhanced level because you just get wisdom with simply living. You just seeing some things. So if that's the case, if we're making permanent decisions, how are we ever rehabilitating anybody? And then on top of that, we don't always get it right. And we made a permanent decision. So here's where I put an analogy for that. If I take a permanent marker and I put it in my clothes, or I take a water-based marker and I put it in my clothes, they both markers on my clothes, but they have different consequences. Would you agree?
Yeah.
There we go.
You've permanently altered the look of the shirt. But take it one step further and close the circle. If you take a life, it's gone.
Right. Man, let's go to the chat. Let's go to the audience and see what we got here. Let's have everyone today. Willie Mae says, I totally agree. What would the death penalty prove? I believe in reform. The minority of, I don't know if the minority of inmates on death row, I think she wanted to say majority, death row are Black. I worked as a nurse in a federal prison. I said in my statement earlier before the show, yes, racism will forever be. I'm glad that more young people like Kennedy are more aware of hidden and open racism. The awareness will allow them to know how to respond when approached with a racist act or remark, and they will be slow to react. Yes, I got you, Willie, man. I figured you meant majority there. Look,
I agree with that sentiment. I mean, because if we know a couple things about crime and punishment. If you look at prison populations across the United States, we have some of the longest sentences. I mean, it's just a fact. We have some of the longest, most punitive sentences. And if you look at the death row inmates, and there's where that decoupling or prohibition comes in, why would you not view it through a lens of race when the majority of the people there are Black?
Yeah. I will say this too. And people don't like to hear, but here's the reality. Everybody on death row may be sentenced to death, but everybody on death row ain't not always guilty. And that's true. And one of the things that I think that as society we are quick to do, I think we're waking up to it now, but I think particularly our counterparts, I think as African Americans we're sensitive to it because we see it in real time. But I think on the other side, our counterparts that don't see it, and I can tell sometimes by the conversation of what they speak or what they say, they just don't know and hadn't experienced it. But the reality is we don't always get it right in our justice system. We don't. And that, as long as that reality is there, then we've got to proceed with caution.
Yeah.
And I think you said something earlier, we were dealing with something this week. It's really frustrating because so many times we see the presumption of innocence to proving guilty neglected, and it's flipped for us. And when I say us, I want to be clear. I'm not mistakenly said. I'm being clear here. I'm talking about African Americans, and particularly African American males. So if you look like me, we're most often presumed guilty, not innocent. And so, again, if we go to critical race theory, right there we go, tied in. And even today in 2021, if I go get on an elevator, whether I'm suited up or not, and I'm on an elevator, and it's me, and I just have a Caucasian female person, even though I stand as totally away from them as I can get on the elevator, I still have instances where they clutch their purse and clutch their purse. They just and I have listened to this. I have seen this and know factually people have gotten off on the floor they had no intention of getting off on, just get off the elevator. That still happens. So again, that's that presumption of something that may not be factually true, and it is not the same on the other side. So when you speak, I'm glad you said that, but that's still happening today. And so again, when that kind of stuff still happens, we've got to proceed with caution.
Yeah. Excuse me. Think about this, and this goes back to the Idaho proposition. They're talking about teaching critical race theory so that people have an understanding of the disparities and how race plays a role in it. And you don't want that taught?
Oh, this breaks my heart.
Yeah.
This breaks my heart. Mr. Bird breaks my heart.
And that's why I say, shout out to Brother Bird.
That's why I say we got to proceed with
DJ Bird extraordinaire, among many other hats.
We do. Andy Lewis is in the house. Andrea Lewis. Let me get that right. My bad. But Charles, that still breaks my heart to this day. That we don't always get it right. And Mr. Phillips. Greg Phillips says, according to the word of God, there's no superior person over another. He created all equal. Ancient news, death penalty, very difficult question to answer as a Christian. His words were and are vengeance is mine, racism. It will always be around as long as there's humanity. There will be a lot of racism in hell, but none in the kingdom of heaven. Let's let that sink in. Ain't no racism at my house, though. That's a fact. Justice system, well, that is definitely man-made presumptions.
Greg, that is an excellent synopsis.
Excellent.
And I would relish, we may even have to do a show about that, but I don't know, because I don't really want to get too far down that rabbit hole, but I understand exactly what you mean, Greg.
Yeah, we might have to do that on in a private group, because that's going to be a deep one, but but Greg, Greg, you're spot on. And it's good to hear from you, Greg. And I hadn't seen Greg in forever. But I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing in the young people. And like I said, I think because they're the first global generation, they can make some impact that we just weren't able to make. But we're always going to have it to a certain degree. And I think it was just a little bit shocking when I saw that come across about critical race instruction, that we have to tell people that we have to make laws now to say, hey, you got to treat everybody equally and fairly. I mean, in a public education system. So that was interesting. Greg, I'm going to put this up because this is a very good point. Greg said, we have to change the generation ahead of us. Ha, ha, ha. Start with our own homes. Yes, sir. Agreed. Greg, you get mad love all around. So, we've Charles, I'm going to let you lead me down on this one. This is a conversation that that was obviously um, on our intern's heart. It resonates, and as long as things are resonating with them, it means they want to know more. They want to have the discussion. I know she's watching us in spirit, and she couldn't be on today, but we hear you, Kennedy. We hear you, and we hear your generation. So keep up the work and keep pushing for answers. And remember this: just because just because that's what you was taught, don't mean that's what you have to do. You can change it. If you don't agree with that, you can change it. And and that's you should be better. I should be better tomorrow than I was today. I should be better today than I was yesterday. And all of us have to keep striving for that. Not just in work, but just in being humans and humanity and kindness to each other. So I'm gonna bounce out there on Charles and kick it back to you to tie that up with a bow on critical race theory.
Well, in this instance, I don't know if there's a bow needed. I think there's a recognition of why something like that happens. When you have a majority of one race making those decisions, then you don't see a need for it. That's why you were talking about diversity of thought. So if you remove diversity of thought and you make the power play, then you're reinforcing exactly what critical race theory is teaching about. That's not necessarily a bow. That's just an open acknowledgement that you're getting it wrong, but
Yeah,
maybe you're getting it wrong on purpose.
yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna switch gears, and I'm gonna get a shout out to our intern Kennedy. I'm gonna save some of these things about particularly what happened in Texas and a couple of public schools till you get back on next week because I think you need to be here to talk about them because we're really getting into your generation. So I'm gonna save them for you. I'm not gonna steal all your thunder. So we'll talk about those next week as we continue it. Charles, let's I want to bring a new subject today, a new segment to our show today, and I don't prep you for it ahead of time, so you don't even know what's coming. He doesn't know what's coming. I'm about to throw this at him like a curveball that I'm gonna slide right in the inside corner on him. And so the segment is what's on your mind. What's on your mind, attorney? What's on your mind? So I'm gonna give a topic, and you just tell me what comes to your mind about it. You ready?
I guess so.
All right, here we go. Legalize marijuana.
Good for revenue, um, especially in a state like Mississippi. I don't understand why there's so much pushback because you've got agriculture, you've got land, you've got know-how, you have the preeminent marijuana research facility in the world in Mississippi.
Wait a minute, wait a
Use
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. What?
yes,
Uh, Even you gonna have to educate me on that one. What you talking about?
University of Mississippi has every strand of marijuana ever made, whether it was made in the test tube or from the ground. They have it. They provide most of the a large majority of the research on marijuana. A lot of it comes out of Mississippi from that controlled facility. Highly
Wow.
secure. The knowledge is going out of the state. Why not put it to use here in the state? When we talk about economic disruption, we're talking about $1 billion-trillion industry, and we have the know-how, the scholastic underpinnings, and we have farmers and land.
So why wouldn't we take advantage of that for the state, the resources that we're generating? Why wouldn't we take advantage of that? Why is it this best kept secret?
I'm going to say it's probably going to be taken advantage of, but until they can structure it such that they can not allow the transfer of wealth to other people, they got to work on those things.
Okay. Okay. All right. Here's the next topic. The new transfer rule in NCAA college athletics. Your thoughts?
I mean, it is what it is. People want to play what they want to play. Situations change. And I think it's too many people in the portal, but different generations look at things differently.
So let's frame this because a lot of people may not be aware of what we're talking about there. So the new transfer rule that went into effect, and I forget what was the date. It was recently. Went into effect. Basically said that as a college athlete, well, let me tell you how it used to be. So before this rule came into effect, as a college athlete, if you transferred at a school at your classification or higher, you had to sit out a year. You could not play for a year and you did not get that eligibility back. So you essentially lost a year of eligibility. Recently, they changed it this year, and now the rule said you have a one time basically pass. You can transfer to any school, higher classification, lower, same classification, and you do not have to sit out. You can play immediately. So that's what all the talk is about. So if you look around right now in college athletics, it doesn't matter what the school, people are transferring in and transferring out from everywhere. And there's been a transfer portal frenzy. And so it's nobody's exempt. It's happening everywhere. Alabama has transfers as great as they are, because as great as Alabama is, in fact, even more so for Alabama, somebody got to be on the bench because only 11 can play at a time.
But it's not just football; it's all sports.
Right. Well, I was just referring to Alabama in football because they've been number one at time. But it's every sport. We even got, I saw now, it does soccer, softball, every single sport, bowling, you can transfer it and you have, that's the new rule. You can play immediately. So it's almost like you get a do-over. So if you don't like your school, you can transfer out. Now, there's some caveats to this that I don't think everybody's aware of. If you go into the transfer portal, because here's the question that gets asked. If you go into the transfer portal and you decide or nobody gives you offers, do you just get to go back to your existing school?
Hmm.
Or does the school have to accept you back?
Well, you know the answer to that.
I just want you to say it.
I mean, no.
No. No.
You better know. You better know where you're going, and you better know. Make sure your bag is right before you get there.
And so that's the part. And I'm saying that because I want parents to know, as you have kids that are playing college athletics, no matter what the sport is, when you go in the transfer portal, you need to already know you're gonna have some offers. You already got to know where you're going, because if you go in that transfer portal, unless you have an understanding and you've talked to your coach about it, and they basically say, okay, if you get another offer or whatever, but for a certain period of time, you can come back to us. Unless you got that arrangement, just know when your child enters that transfer portal, they essentially are a free agent. And so if nobody picks them up, that scholarship is gone. So just want to make sure that people are aware of that, because I've heard a lot of talk about it, Charles, but nobody's talking about that part. And I think that's the part that's getting lost. Kids think they can just bounce around and I just go and transfer portal, hop here, hop there. No, somebody has to accept you. It's not just like I go on a transfer portal and I'm guaranteed.
It's a lot of variables involved with that.
There are. All right. Next topic. Okay. Your thoughts on Jackson State baseball team still remaining unbeaten in conference play? I say that because baseball plays a lot of games.
21-0. Well, I don't know, because they're playing Valley right now, so they may be 22-0 by now. They beat University of Louisiana Monroe last night 4-2. I believe they're ranked 87th in the country, and they have good pitching. They got great hitting. They got a couple prospects.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to our classmate son, he had a couple hits last night against Louisiana Monroe. CJ Newsom.
Oh yeah. Oh. Good. Congratulations on that. Good deal. All right. And all right. Next topic is Charles. No HBCU players drafted in the draft. We have some that signed free agency contracts, but none drafted. Your thoughts?
Uh, I'm I'm gonna refrain from judging that because if I'm not mistaken, if they played in the spring, they weren't
They were not
eligible.
eligible. They were
They
not
weren't
eligible to
eligible
be
for the draft.
drafted.
So
It'd
we'll
be
see what
free
happens after fall ball.
Yeah. Good.
Don't
Good
try to
point.
hit me with a trick question, man.
I was gonna come save you if you didn't know the answer to that one. But yeah, uh, I just wanted to clear that up for the audience. If you played in the spring, you were not eligible for the NFL draft. So that's why you saw a lot of players opt out. We'll be back on regular cycle this fall and back to the regular order of things. But I fully expect to see some HBCU players because the talent is there, drafted in next year's draft. I
Yeah.
surely do. And the last one of this segment, Charles. All right, so you ready for this? You know this is coming from me. Najee Harris going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. What does the future look like there?
Time will only tell. Check back with me in 4 years. On
So
paper, on paper, it's a good fit, but a lot of variables there too. What is the line going to look like? How much longer can Ben run the offense? Because can't become one dimensional.
that is true.
And you lost Villanueva to
Baltimore
the Ravens, so
conference rival.
they went across the street.
Yeah.
So I think you just want to see how much stuff I have rattling around in my brain.
All right. Oh, and now I'm gonna flip it to you. Last segment of that is what's on your mind. You get to talk about whatever's on your mind. So
What's on my mind?
wait a minute. Pardon the interruption, and that is a show, but I'm using it for now because somebody wants to come in and put in their 2 cents. Okay.
I mean, he has a valid point. That's why I told you to check back with me in 4 years because I really don't care what. I mean, I think the story of Najee as a man is way more provocative than him putting on a Steelers uniform. I like his work in the community. Heck, he had his draft party at a homeless shelter, feeding
He
the
sure
homeless.
did. He sure did.
So I value that part way more than the Steelers part. I hope they lose every game by double digits.
Well, now
Twice.
wait a minute. That'll never happen. But I'm glad you did. That's wishful thinking. That'll never happen in Steeler country. That might happen in Cowboy country, but that'll never happen in Steeler.
Won't happen.
So what's on your mind, y'all? I've emptied my chest of things I could throw at you to try to trip you up. So what's on your mind?
Oh, I have so many things on my mind. It just depends on what area we're talking about.
The floor is yours, sir.
I would like to talk about doggy coin.
About what?
Doggy coin.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
The Doge. And for those who don't know, that's cryptocurrency. And doggy coin has moved up to fourth in position behind Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance Coin, and then Doggy. A lot of people have questioned, a lot of the OGs in crypto have questioned, how could that be? And here's what I will tell you. You never know what is going to catch fire and rise up like a rocket ship. For those people who are not into crypto or thinking about crypto, something like Doggy Coin, which started as a meme coin with no actual use, it may catch your attention. You get into it. Doesn't mean it doesn't have value. Value is what the holders of Doggy Coin place on it.
Right.
So don't let people discourage you. But I would say this because this is what's on my mind about doggy coin. Before you go out and spend your life savings on it, you need to understand the cycles of crypto so that you don't get burned.
Can we give a disclaimer? We are not offering investment advice. This
No,
is for educational purposes only. All right, go ahead.
yeah, no, you do your own research. But here's the other thing that I would say for those of us who have been in the space for a long time, the rise of Doge is promising from this aspect. It lets you know that there is a lot of new money coming into crypto. Market cap right now is 2.4, um, headed to 2.5. Bitcoin dominance is right around 55%. All that to say, there's a lot of new people coming into crypto. There are a lot of new businesses coming into crypto, and crypto is not going away.
Well said.
So,
Charles, we have our audience is throwing in a topic they want us to discuss. And audience, if you have a topic you want us to discuss, put it in there. We'll deal with it. So let me throw this one up, coming from Willie Mae Charles.
hmm.
I know you got something to say on that.
Actually, I don't. I mean,
What?
the powers that be, especially for Mississippi, the powers that be have shown that they don't value science. So, uh, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. I'm gonna wear my mask. How about that?
Me too. Me too. And yes, that's $2.4 trillion market cap, not billion, trillion.
No.
So yeah, throw your topics in. Charles will keep going with his topics, but if you got some topics you want us to discuss, put it in here and we will jump to that as well. Charles?
What else is on my mind? We hadn't talked pop culture in a while. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand this Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So if we have any audience members who have watched this, I hadn't made it all the way through. It's interesting. Marvel put a lot of money into it, but it seems like it's surely a lot of development. I wonder what the payoff is toward the end. I don't know the answer yet because I haven't finished watching it. If somebody wants to clue me in and save me if it's gonna end bad and not be worth it, help me save some time.
See, I hadn't even started. See, pop culture. I mean, look, I'm still. I hadn't even watched the first Avengers yet, so I'm behind on that. But I will say this, Charles. I got a topic for you. This
Okay.
shocking news: Bill and Melinda Gates over. Didn't see that one coming.
This show does not give marital advice.
No. Not giving no advice.
However, I will
My,
say
my,
this. I will say this for those
my,
people who are in. No, you're not gonna be in a similar situation as Bill and Melinda Gates. But I want you
right.
to understand. I want you to understand the power moves at play here. They announced the divorce, and they also announced that they'd already split all the earnings.
Yes,
Smart,
that's what I was gonna go to next.
smart money moves.
Yeah, yeah. You better believe. And yes, they are still running the foundation together and still working together. None of that's changed. Smart people. There's a reason. And it's very strategic in the way they do things. So I'm sure they didn't just wake up and say we're gonna call it quits today.
No, no.
No, not if you thought about because they got too much holdings to not have to think about it. But anyway, just shocking headline. All right. Charles, something I didn't know dealing with pop culture, the Orange Blossom Classic, the Jackson State will play FAMU in the fall, uh, that we plan on getting a chance to be there. But I did not realize that classic had been around as long as it had. And they were reviving that classic after 43 years of it not being in there, 43-year absence.
Good time to revive it.
Yeah.
So here's what I will say. Here then now you just touched on something that's in my mind. Uh, for all the people who were ragging on A&M and Pine Bluff about their attendance numbers, I want to make two observations. It is the Southwestern Athletic Conference football championship, meaning there should be support from every school for whoever's in there. Secondly, we still have a pandemic going on, so cut them some slack. What I would like to see from the conference is you root for your school. You talk all the trash you want to, but when the cameras are off and social media is however tempting it is, you're still your brother's keeper. It benefits all schools for us to have a great showing at the SWAC championship of any kind. So instead of ragging on them for attendance, we should have been buying the tickets.
Good point, well said, because it is a Southwestern Athletic Conference, which means a conference is inclusive of everyone.
Right. They earned the chance to play in that game. Let them play, support it, move on.
Right.
And remember this, because your school may be up next.
Mm-hmm.
I know mine is,
Yep.
but we travel well.
Yep.
But that shouldn't be a reason for us to rag on anybody else.
Yeah, and I think I saw that too, and I think the reality is we have to remember sometimes in the energy and the adrenaline of competition, right? Sometimes we lose sight of the bigger picture. So in the conference championship, I mean, they earned the right to be there. They did what they needed to do and beat who they needed to be there. We need to all support to fill the stands because the optics of that is bad, and we have the support throughout the conference to do better, and we will do better. Now, traditionally, um, schools like Jackson State and Southern, everybody know they're the two schools that travel the best and have the best fan support. And Jackson State being number one because we pack more fans into the stadium than anybody in the FCS. And so, but we all in this together. So I love the point of that. When it gets to the championship games and things of that nature, in any sport, we need to go and not let's not just support football, basketball. Let's support some of the other sports that we don't traditionally support. We need to get out there and look at softball games. And if you don't want to go, I know I'm sure all the schools are doing something like it. Jackson State, you can buy membership to the sports network and support the programs. But we need to get tuned in because we got great student athletes in all sports, from baseball to softball to tennis to golf, we bowling. So let's make sure we continue to do that across all the sports and across the conference.
And then here's another thing that's on my mind. At this point in time, the Southwestern Athletic Conference is the premier HBCU athletic conference in the world. We need to recognize that. We need to nurture that. And we need to make it do all of the things that statement could mean.
All right. Charles, I got one more for you. FAMU Bethune-Cookman will join that conference you just spoke of, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, this fall. What implications or impact you think that will have, particularly on the SWAC East, and how will things look different in the East with the realignment?
I think it's a beautiful thing. I mean, if you look at just purely the map of the SWAC, we cover a nice geographical region. It should provide for excellent travel games, money games, and just the excellent build out to the conference. Competition wise, it raises the level. And from a leveraging standpoint, now it puts us in an interesting spot that if we nurture it, like I was talking about just a second ago, who's to say that the commissioner can't get a deal for a TV contract. I've told you this often ad nauseum. I know you probably get tired of me saying it all the time. The SEC has ran off and left everybody, but they didn't run off and leave everybody until they got their TV money.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And that's the differentiator. It's the difference maker because that TV money gets split with all the schools in the conference.
Member institutions, they get that
Yes.
check.
And that check, I think that check is pretty unrestricted. They can use it however they need to use it.
Oh, you look at the facilities, you look at the
Right.
campus, you look at the athletic facilities. When you're recruiting, I've heard Coach Prime talk about this and how he sets realistic expectations. You're not coming to an SEC school, you're coming to a swag school. So you need to know we're not gonna have all the LED bulbs in the world.
Yeah.
But we can get you ready to play. But think about what that would do to all the member institutions if we rolled the boat in the same direction. We packed out every SWAC championship. Because if we pack it out, they're gonna want to put that on TV.
Right. Well, and then here's the thing, right? So, and definitely for more on this, guys, definitely go to the pregame show because you can see the interview that Charles is referencing with Coach Prime and Neely as he talks about the recruiting process in general and how they're able to get it. And he talks about particularly, I like the way he phrased the statement where he talked about Alabama. He's like, look, there ain't but one Alabama. He said, Alabama can put you in one, two jerseys and one pair of pants, and you just gonna go kill everybody. Nobody else, no other team, I don't care who you are, Clemson, whatever, does that. Only Alabama can do that. Because if you think about it, that's how Alabama plays. Two jerseys, one pair of pants. So he talked about the difference in this generation and how we have to highlight the things we can offer and the things we can do. And he said, how do we even it? How do we even it? When things look similar? We've got to improve our facilities. We got to, and those type of things come with support from us, but also that extra revenue, TV money, and things like that can really help bolster your facilities. Because that's the hardest part. If you got to do a capital campaign for every facility all the time, man, you're gonna always be behind.
Yeah, North Carolina just did a good job with their fundraising campaign. It raised $181 million.
North Tar Heels or North Carolina A&T?
A&T.
Wow, they did do a good job. So, and I think did they just go up to Division One in football from FCS to FBS, or they still FCS?
I don't quote me on this, but they joined Southland or Ohio Valley. I don't know which one they joined.
I'll look it up. I'm looking up. I forget which conference they joined, but I'll look it up. What else is on your mind?
So, in that same vein, here's something that I want to talk to my JSU alumni about. Everybody wants a new stadium, dog.
Yeah.
Who's cutting the check? Everybody wants a new stadium. Who's cutting the check? I can remember my senior year doing a project on facilities management and how capacity, when raised by 10,000, raises the price by 10 million. Though roughly those numbers are the same. So if you want the stadium to look like the stadium, or if you want it to look diametrically different than what the stadium looks like now, and you want it on campus, we're gonna need about $55 million.
I think we're gonna need about $80 million.
What you trying to build?
I'm just saying. I think that's what the number is gonna have to be.
Okay.
To build what we, let me say this: you don't build a house and build it for today. You build a house and build it for tomorrow as well.
I'm gonna disagree with you vehemently on that, and I'm gonna give you a concrete example.
Listen to what I'm saying, though. I'm not talking about size. I'm not talking about the amount of people you can see. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about all the other amenities of a stadium that improve game day experience for the fans and get them to spend more money in the stadium. So
Yeah,
it's not the seats. It's really all the other things in the stadium, the technology in the stadium, the amenities, the luxury boxes, those type of things that brings revenue outside of just seat revenue.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm still gonna disagree with you. And here's why. Here's why. And here's my concrete example. Yes, we do need all of those things. But where do you come? I mean, if you start at 80 million, how you gonna make any improvements? And how are you going to create supply demand? I think we need to build a much smaller, much more intimate, loud stadium for home field advantage. And I'm going to tell you the stadium that I have in mind.
I'm listening.
Bryant Denny Stadium, University of Alabama.
Okay. Okay.
It seats 120,000 people now.
Today, but that's not what it
It didn't
used to.
start that way.
Right.
It didn't start that way. It started in the 40s. And they built up their season ticket holders, thereby any improvements, the luxury boxes, all the stuff that you're talking about, all that stuff came over time. I give you another example.
Okay.
Mumford Stadium at Southern University used to be what 18,000,
Yeah.
but the improvements were paid for pretty much with season ticket holders because the state of Louisiana ain't really putting no money into Southern. But
No.
they were able to expand. I give you a third example,
Okay.
Alabama State. They have the type of stadium that you're talking about with the luxury boxes and what have you, but it's at the smaller end, around about 55, $56 million. I don't know what you're trying to build for 80.
Well, listen, you
And
probably
and I want you to remember something. They may be able to build a high school stadium for 80 million in Texas, but this ain't Texas, dog. We're in Mississippi.
so we can't do 80 million.
Who's gonna give you 80 million?
Well, look, here's what our good friend Antonio said. Look, he's fundraising for DI Love right now for anyone who wishes to help him raise at least, I think it's 100,000 he's trying to raise, or 10,000. 10,000.
He'll
Okay.
go with 100. He'll go with 100.
Yeah, he'll go with the 100. So look, I I just don't. I don't think we need to sell ourselves short. So
I'm
we
not.
build
I'm
a
not.
50 million
I'm not. I
stage, but
promise you, I'm not. But I'm talking realistically. You're not gonna get $80 million, and you have two SEC schools in the state of Mississippi.
no, I don't think you're gonna get $80 million. That's not what I'm saying. But I think you're gonna whatever you're not gonna get all of it from the state anyway. You're gonna still have to go out and raise some money.
Right. So what I'm saying is, it's a lot easier to raise 50 million than it is 80.
Well, that's true. That's true. So you're saying Alabama State Stadium, but Alabama State Stadium only seats like 28,000 or 25,000, something like
That's
that.
what we need.
Oh, I disagree.
Here's why. Here's why. That's a guaranteed sellout automatically.
Yeah, it's a
And guess
sellout.
what? Guess what? All of that day of purchasing that you can do at Mississippi Veteran, that's
Can't do
gone
that no more.
because all 28,000 of them, I predict will be sold as season tickets. And then guess what? You add 10,000 more, and they're sold. Then you add 10,000 more, and they're sold.
So you're saying build it small, but build it where it can be added to. So in other words, you want to make sure you got the land and build it from a structural standpoint that you can add.
Yes.
So I got you. Charles, look, man, we're at the top of the hour. Let you take us out. We talked about a lot today. Some fun stuff, some lighthearted stuff, but we started off real heavy, dealing with race and the critical race theory. And we finished up with some fun stuff in pop culture and talking about what was on your mind. So it's only fitting that you send us out to enjoy the weekend.
I'm gonna send this out really simple because we're over time. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. uh, wherever you are in the world. Have a good weekend.
There you have it.